Welcome to Balance, Love, and Kindness, the podcast brought to you by BLK Water. We're at Studio Place LA. I'm your host, Nicole Townend, and we're joined today by author Jacqlyn Burnett. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me here. It's such a treat. And I love our story of even just how we got to these chairs, because it was a mutual friend of ours, Nate, and he introduced us and we just immediately hit it off.
Yes.
You know, it's like when you meet those people, you just know you're going to share life with them forever. That's how I felt with you, which is beautiful.
I feel like that too. Even reading your book, I just feel very aligned with your whole like life mantra. I think we have a lot in common.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. This is Jacqueline's book.
Yes.
Happiness Habitat. Optimize your opportunity zone. So inspirational. It's like what I loved, the point that she makes is that the universe is so big, there's always room for expansion. Even if you're in a 30-acre mansion overlooking the ocean, you could still have space to grow.
Yeah, wherever you are, there's always room to optimize. And so what this book really goes into is like, how do you discover that innate superpower, what I like to call it, of happiness? Because of course we have all of these different emotions and they're all so special and so unique and great. But what about bringing out more of that happiness? Because when you're happy, all of those obstacles just turn into mere illusions, right? Like think of a time when you were really upset, right? It's like all you can think about is that one thing versus how about when you're joyful, when you're happy, when you're just balanced. And I'm not saying over exuberantly just stoked. How about just balanced and clear-minded? That's how I define happiness, being grateful for the present moment.
Yeah. When in your center, right?
Exactly, yeah. And so when you are on center, you have the possibility to think larger than yourself. You have a more opportunity to think than just that tunnel vision when you are in that fight or flight mode when you're not happy.
Yeah, I love how you talk about the center and then you give all these tools and exercises and ways that you can in 2 minutes find your center again.
Right. There's many tools. So so how I like to at least define it is like when you can optimize each area of your life, you can get back to that happiness moment that much more quickly and effectively. It's like, imagine a sports car. You know, if you were to drive a sports car versus like an old vehicle that you're not really taking care of, that sports car is probably going to get you to A to B that much more quickly rather than a car that you're not really taking care of. So that's why in the book I have each chapter goes into a different part of life that you experience, whether that's health and wellness, your mindset, understanding brain waves, communication. All of these things are so important because when you can optimize each area, you can access your superpower that much more quickly.
Yes, that's amazing. So tell us a little bit more about what brought you to write this book.
Yeah, of course. So I would say my whole entire foundation of life, the whole reason I've been able to go into different dynamic, modes of life in my professional and personal career is because of my mindset, which is happiness. And that's something that has taken me 30 years to build. The time when I wrote this book, I was 26. It was a 3.5-year project. And so at that time, the same idea, right? I made it a point in my life once I got to around, I think it was like 20 years old, 21, where I wanted to just go intentionally into personal development and study with as many psychiatrists, therapists, somatic energy practitioners that I could, so I could really understand the depths of what makes someone happy. And I could really explain those things. And so the book itself, I wrote when I was actually at my cousin's house in Orange County. His name is David Meltzer. He has been a mentor of mine forever. He's been someone that I've looked up to, I've been able to work for, and just, he's been a light and inspiration. So I'm at his house, and it's the pandemic, so he invited me to stay with him, for like a month or two, so I could, not be in a ghost town in West Hollywood.
Yeah.
So I'm journaling my experiences throughout life, and he's like walking over my shoulder, kind of, he's like, what are you writing? He's like, oh, I'm journaling about my experiences just to have so I can reflect on. He's like, well, you understand that you could do something even bigger with that. You could turn this into a book and you can help others. And at first I was a little nervous. I'm like, I never really thought I would become an author. It's been something that's on a bucket list item of mine, but I didn't exactly think that was something I was going to jump into right there. And so he connected me with his former editor, Cliff Carl, amazing man. And I worked on this book for the next three and a half years. And I had invited these doctors and experts inside the book who I'm just super fans of. Mary Ruth, has the best vitamins, multivitamin on the market. I got to work with different therapists and the founder of BioCybernaut, Dr. James Hart. So it was just a really, compact book that I was so excited to create and just be able to deliver to other people so they can apply those same lessons and tactics in their own life.
Yeah, I feel like it's so valuable because in here you have real, like, concrete tools from even Dr. Pratt, a hypnotherapist.
Yeah.
And, is that Dr. Ruth?
Dr. George Pratt.
Oh, George Pratt.
Yep.
Where just some of the advice that he gave, I was just like, you'd have to pay thousands of dollars to go sit with him.
Yes.
Right.
And so I went to him as a client at first. That's how I met him. I'm like, okay, who's the best hypnotherapist that I can go see? My cousin actually, Dr. Carolyn, she's also an incredible hypnotherapist, but I'm like, where can I go in California and see someone this guy's worked with? Rob Dyrdek, if you remember who Rob Dyrdek is, and Rob attests his success to Dr. George Pratt. I'm like, okay, I need to go see this guy. So I go to him, and initially I'm like, I took all these ADD medications when I was a younger kid. And I said, I've always had this weird subconscious thing of like, how can I create more focus and just like streamline that into my life, right? Like subconsciously, I always had that thought. He goes, oh, so you want the superpower of focus? I was like, we can do that. Yeah. So he hypnotized me over many different sessions.
Wow.
And the one line that's ingrained in my mind is focus to finish. So I genuinely do not get up from a task until I am done. Focus to finish. It's just something that's been ingrained. So thank you, Dr. George Pratt.
And what does that really mean, focus to finish? I've never heard that.
Yeah. So he gave me the recordings for my sessions with him.
Okay.
And so the line that he kept repeating was focus to finish. And it was kind of all about when you sit down to do a task, don't get up until it's done.
Okay.
Basically.
Okay.
Obviously, if there's different parts of the task, you're breaking it up, sure. But that's kind of been my own personal mantra with just
I can
moving
see how
through.
That's very helpful.
Oh, super helpful. Yeah.
So if it's a task that would take a long time, but at least have like a goal of what you want to finish that day.
Yes.
Maybe, and don't stop until you reach
exactly.
that.
And I think that we all have that on our own. We all have our own personal mantra of how we are, productive, focused humans.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, how can I go to an expert and just figure out the little ways I can tweak these things to make me even more efficient?
Yeah. I love how you seek out experts. You were even telling us about your fiance who got invited to go to a celebrity poker tournament.
Yes.
And you're like, hang on, let me find an expert poker teacher. And then now he's going to be the best.
Here's the thing. We don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
The minute you take away ego and you realize, let me open up my hand and receive the beautiful things in life that I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. That's when you can start really leveling up faster and more efficiently than before. Because when Casey when he got invited to the celebrity poker tournament, the first thing in my head was like, you don't really know how to play poker. And if it's a tournament, the goal is to win.
Yeah.
So I went on my computer really quick, looked up a poker tutor, a pretty great poker tutor. And he's been working with him. And now Casey, he's great. He beats me in, our whatever games that we play.
Wow. And you've probably been playing poker a lot longer than him.
Since I was a little kid.
Wow.
So maybe I need to start working with the poker tutor.
I want to meet this guy.
I know.
Tell me a little bit more about like your background and growing up and how that's related to you being so like pursuant of happiness.
Yeah. So I think we discussed this earlier, but we're both very lucky that, we come from families that just have this abundant, unconditional love. Abundant unconditional love. Like those are heavy words. That's amazing. That's beautiful to experience. Every single child should experience that, right?
Yes.
And so when I was a little girl, my mom, she would always just make sure that we have the most creative type of experiences. We also were super mindful about health. She would cut out in magazines or newspapers back in the day, and she still does because she still reads magazines and newspapers, but just health facts and put them on the pantry. So when I'm, 7, 10 years old, I can open up the pantry and I'm like, oh, what's the new article of the day? Or my dad, you know, his mantras and lessons in life is, you know, if you're going to do something, do it right. Or, you know, don't do something to others that you wouldn't do to yourself, right? There's all these different mantras and lessons. And, you know, like growing up on the lake in Michigan, we had a dock and some boats. And so my tasks were always, you know, to clean the dock, right? And if there's ever any like little mess left, he's like, if you're going to do it right.
Yeah.
You know, and so just as a little kid, even simply just cleaning poop off a dock, you know, and making sure it's correct. Well, how does that apply in Jacquelyn's life 5, 10, 15, 20 years later, you know? But not every kid necessarily has those opportunities. And so there's ways where you have to create that for yourself. And the only reason why I feel like I can and somewhat relate to that, obviously I can't put myself in their shoes because I haven't been in their shoes. But, you know, I've had different types of relationships throughout my life where, you know, I learned the hard way, of course. Don't let people in your life that are only out to get you negatively, right? Like, only bring in positivity, especially since you are the 5 most people that you surround yourself around. So when I moved off on my own to California and I got to meet all these amazing people, I then met someone who became a friend of mine that just only would engage with me with negative connotation, would manipulate me to think I was always wrong. And I started to believe those things because I was so optimistic of, is this person like really trying to help me? I was also very young, you know, so I didn't exactly know. And so I had to, like, my friends even noticed. They're like, your face is duller. You're not smiling as much. My parents tried warning me, you need to remove this friend from your life. And so I had to make really hard decisions at that time to totally cut this person out, start over with, you know, where I was in that friendship and reteach myself, okay, what about those foundational principles that I learned when I was a kid? How can I re-put those back in my life? And so when we go talk about the book, it's like each of those chapters, you know how I mentioned my mom putting those things on the you know, shelves and
the pantry
exactly. Yeah, like that cute. Really leads into how do you optimize each of those areas of your life? And I wasn't doing that when I was, you know, engaging with this friend of mine, you know? So I think it's really important to create those moments for yourself of just optimization so you can expand to the best possible version of you.
And that's such a great point. I think also anybody listening that's has more of like a positive mindset like we do, there tends to be maybe like a vulnerability where negative people kind of like attach themselves to it and then they want to dull the light or something. Because that same thing has happened to me where I've let that in. Or maybe it's because we did have a great upbringing and I didn't know that there could be people like that out there.
Exactly.
You know, I just thought everybody like wanted the best for me or like and for everyone else and had the best intentions, but that's not the world we live in. You have to be so careful.
That's a huge part of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you know, I like to call it the rose-colored glasses, which is so great when you are super careful about the people that you do let into your circle. Because I do believe having rose-colored glasses are great, but you want to make sure you know the people that are in your life.
Like, yeah, you gotta, and I think that comes with age too, where you can see it more clearly when you're younger.
Oh yeah, I was like 21.
Yeah,
I was a kid. Even though 21, you're an adult, but still.
You just got a lot of the experience,
the experience you have in your life.
It's funny how you say the thing about the little cutouts on the pantry because with my daughter, we don't read magazines anymore, but I'm constantly sending her video clips, right?
I love that.
I download the thing about food or Coke or McDonald's French fries or whatever, and I could tell that it annoys her, but she still watches it.
Oh, for sure.
And it's registering.
Oh, absolutely. Did it? You think it absolutely annoyed me when I opened up the pantry. I'm like, I have to move these things to get to where I need to go. And now my mom, she's in her 60s, mid 60s, and she's finally learned she can send me Instagram videos or other things.
Even better.
Yeah.
Because it's more relatable and you don't have to read it. And it just sinks in.
Although now when she does send an article, like a picture, she cuts out things and she'll send me a picture. I'm like, my heart, keep doing it. Don't stop.
Yeah. There's that moment where we realize that our mom just wants the best for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know you have great parents when you say you want to be like your parents.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I feel that way too.
Yeah. I texted my dad something last night, a very random thing last night, and I'll read it. All I said was a random thought I had to myself. I hope every daughter gets to have a father like mine. Because it's so true. And I want my dad to know that I feel that way.
Yeah, he knows. I thought about that when I was reading your book because you were saying how he ends every sentence in something sweetie or what is
Sweetie girl.
Sweetie girl.
Yeah.
And my dad was super gentle like that too, and always treated me like a princess. And I just feel so lucky to have had that experience. That is not,
Absolutely.
across the board the
And
experience.
so as we talk about what if you don't have that,
Right.
how
So,
about communication, right, with yourself? So like talking about communication with yourself, I talk to myself so positively. When there's no one else there and you just have yourself, the same way we're our own biggest critic, you also need to be your biggest fan. That's so important. So I did my hair this morning, right? And I'm looking in the mirror right before. I'm like, my hair looks good. I'm like, sweet. Like I was excited about it and it made me smile. Right? I don't have any other person standing there. It's me.
Yeah.
And so the more you can just, obviously don't get to your head, right? But you want, we live in this beautiful world. Why not be a part of the beauty,
And focus on that.
Yeah, come on.
To expand on the people maybe that didn't have the same kind of upbringing, and you're saying speak nicely to yourself, what are some other tools that they can do to kind of maybe step away from trauma or whatever negativity was in their past, just to move ahead to a brighter future?
Yeah, the first thing is just recognizing where you currently are, right? Your present is your past actions, thoughts, and ideas. Okay, so what does that mean though? That means that you can change your present. You can change that just by changing your past actions, your now current actions, thoughts, ideas. So first realize, where are you? Am I in a home that is stable? Am I in a home that fulfills me? Or am I in a home that kind of just takes away from me? Because you don't want to be living with what I like to call like an energy vampire, just sucking the energy away from you. You want someone that really lifts you up. So that's number one. Once you realize that, you really do need to create an action plan for yourself. And throughout that action plan, whether if your situation is you're dating someone and they're not the right person for you, create a plan of, okay, am I secure? How do I make myself financially secure? Do I have my own home? Do I need to go find another apartment? Create that plan. And through that process, know that you are the only person that is in control of your life. Nobody else. No one else is controlling you. It's just you, which means you can do something about it. And if there's a will, there is a way. And if you're too comfortable in the situation and you have manipulated yourself to think that I should be living in this terror, I should be living in these things, then you have to also recognize, let me take a look from above. I do this all the time with my thoughts, but it's just third-party perspective with your own thoughts. So really, while we're sitting in this room, I'm doing it right now, right? So pick a corner and kind of observe us, right? Be outside of your own head.
Third person.
Yeah, be outside of your own head. So if you're observing, if this person's observing, this is a very toxic environment, Okay, then ding, 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 let's create that action plan. Or if you're this person is in a toxic environment, but I think it's fine. It's would the best version of yourself want that? Or are you still in your head? Because you always have to think about the best version of you and what would that person be doing. Casey, my fiance, always likes to say, he's like, the best version of you is waiting on you. Aww. The best version of yourself is waiting on you. And if we're up at 5:30, he's like, the best version of yourself is waiting on you. And immediately I'm like, all right, I'm getting up.
I love that.
It's great. It's very
so
helpful.
True, because we sabotage ourselves. That's one example, by staying up too late. And then the version of you in the morning is why did I do that to myself?
Humans love self-sabotage.
Yes.
We love it. And that's fine. We are humans, okay? But it's all about, what's your mission? What's your goal? Can you afford to get 2 hours less of sleep? Okay, great. If that's fine, just know you're going to deal with it the next day if it was that important. But it's all about also just what's your mission in life? And some people do have that lack of mission, which can make it easy to go against maybe some of their daily goals or monthly goals, whatever you want to call it, right? If they're not so committed to their health, maybe they don't care about working out every single day. Maybe it's once a month. It's all good. I'll go on a walk. Or maybe not even that. So it's about creating that intrinsic goal, intrinsic mission for your own life. And that's fine if your mission's also just to shred the biggest mountains. That's a great goal in life. What is it going to take to do that? And what do you need to do to be successful? we have this one life. So how do you make the most of it?
This episode of Balance, Love, and Kindness, the podcast, is brought to you by BLK water. Did you know it's black because of fulvic and humic minerals? Fulvic acid has been considered a god molecule in Ayurvedic medicine for thousands of years for its healing properties. It's amazing for gut health, cell detox, natural energy, electrolytes, hangover prevention, and your hair, skin, and nails. Find us on Amazon or your local grocery store. Use our store locator to find an Erewhon, Whole Foods, Publix, or Target near you that carries BLK and get your detox on today. I think, too, keeping promises to yourself. I've been hearing a lot about that. I try to remind myself, if you can't trust yourself and keep a promise to yourself, then, well, you're not going to trust other people. But no, what is it really they're saying? It's like...
I know what you're saying. It's you break these little promises with yourself and it becomes a bigger thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I
you
think,
have to be able to trust yourself,
yeah,
basically, or then you just have no self-worth, basically, if you can't keep promises to your own body and your own goals and whatever you have.
And I think that's also even just relating it to fitness. Start small. Like if you say, I'm going to wake up tomorrow at 5 a.m. when you've never woken up at 5 a.m. and I'm going to run a mile when you don't run. Well, you're going to break a promise to yourself. How about this? How about you say, I'm going to wake up tomorrow. Let's say the normal time is 7 a.m. or 6:30 a.m. And I'm going to wake up and I'm going to go on a 40-minute walk. Mm-hmm. Well, that sounds really attainable. Mm-hmm. So maybe you accomplish that goal for a week. And then the next week, because you're feeling really great because you're starting to move your body, next week, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go to the gym, have a good 30-minute session. I'm going to experiment in the gym. Great. You're going to accomplish that goal and you're going to keep bringing it bigger. Everyone started at the same level. Mm-hmm. Everyone started at ground zero. So you got to give yourself some slack. Like the one thing too that's so important that I learned from Dr. James Hart, the most important thing. So when I did this BioCybernaut experience up in Sedona, this was back, I think it was 2020. It was basically to learn how to tap into your alpha brainwaves, which is kind of like your monk or Zen-like state. So the biggest lesson I learned of even just to get in alpha waves and just to keep growing into your better self is forgiveness. Like forgive yourself. If you do make a mistake, just forgive yourself because that's so important. You're like, you can say, you know what? I'm so sorry, Jacqlyn. I forgive me for missing my own, personal deadline of going to the gym 5 days a week, but I'm going to do better. You know?
That's so cool.
Yeah,
because maybe a little piece of that is self-sabotage by setting too big of a lofty goal, like get up at 5 a.m. and run a mile. You're hurting yourself because you're not going to be able to achieve it. And then you're going to feel down for not achieving it. So yeah, just giving yourself a break.
Yeah. And I mean, self-sabotage can also, it's funny, when I was in college, I used to positively self-sabotage myself. And I knew I was doing this at the time. I went to Michigan State University. I lived about an hour away from campus. And so when my friends who were home, still they weren't at college with me. And they'd be like, oh, come home, let's go out to dinner and, we'll go out. So I would purposely not bring home dinner clothes or like going out clothes. And that way I had to go buy more clothes when I got home. So self-sabotage we love it. Humans love that stuff.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways.
Yes, there really are. But as long as, like you said, you have to recognize it.
Absolutely.
And then write it down.
Yes.
And try to work on it.
Yeah.
You were talking about those alpha brainwaves. I thought that was very interesting in the book. And a big thing that stood out to me was that blue light does not help alpha brainwaves.
No,
right?
No, it does not. I actually have on my phone, it's the 3 clicks. So, phone's on, 1, 2, 3, removes all of the blue light in the phone.
Wait, how do you do that?
It is, I will send you the article, but it's this hack that you can do in the iPhone where you can actually remove all one color and then set a accessibility setting. So when you do 3 clicks, it turns on. So every single night, like an hour or 2 before I go to bed, I even had it on right before I got in here because you get so used to it. And then you see the blue light and you're like, oh, no.
I'm going to put a link under this podcast to how to
I'll send you the article.
Yeah, because that's so cool.
Yeah, there's so many biohack different things that I like doing just for my body.
Why not?
We live in this body, so why not just make it the best possible? So yeah, the red light face mask, anything to just calm the cells, stretching. Casey loves his cold plunge. I will say I'm not there yet. I can put
I heard it's not necessarily good for women.
You know,
hormones.
because I haven't really gone in it, I haven't studied the whole woman side so much, but I do know that it releases endorphins really quickly, which is great. But then, you know, what about food? I use adaptogens and other things in my water, the best vitamins, like all these things.
It's whatever works for you.
Yeah, whatever. We're all so multidimensional. Like we're all individual. So you really should be doing what's best for you. Not one thing's going to work for everyone. Like for me, I'm more of a plant-based person because I know my body is just easily digests those types of food better, but not everyone has the same experience, right? So like Casey, he likes eating meat once in a while. I haven't had meat in like 8 years and I feel great.
Wow.
So it's just, and I get my levels tested, my blood tested, and I'm like skyrocketing, you know? So it's working.
Right.
It's all working.
Well, there's different, I remember I read a long time ago, like eat for your blood type. There's some blood types that just don't like red meat.
Right.
Or chicken and turkey. And so you're just very, I think, in tuned with your body. And
Absolutely.
you can just like tell what's good for you.
And I've tested too. Like fun, random story. When I went off this ADD medication that I was on for so many years, amazing, thank you, that I was on for so many years because at the time, my parents both thought, you know, that was the best thing at the time, which was so true. I got tested for eyesight, was it this? And they're like, okay, let's just try ADD medication. And so I was put on ADD medication from 4th grade all the way to the end of college, which is so long. Like everything from Vyvanse, Adderall, Concerta, Riddle, like all those things.
Wow.
Crazy.
Just because your learning style was different, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Every single kid learns differently. But through that, you know, I went off of the ADD medication. As soon as I was like, hold on, no. We don't need to be taking these things, right? And so I then experimented with food because I was having issues going to the bathroom, TMI, but that's what happens when you're put on stimulants for X amount of years.
Okay.
And so that's when I really learned, okay, plant-based lifestyle is way better for me.
Wow.
So maybe that was a lucky thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm going through my head of all these people I know that take like Adderall and also have issues in the bathroom. And I'm going to call them after this and be like, stop taking Adderall.
I will say 2 days of being plant-based from going off, I was like, okay, we are reset. We are good to go.
Crazy. So now
crazy.
how do you find, because I know those kind of medications, well, for me, it would give me a lot of energy. But if you technically have ADD, it just kind of
It really does. Yeah. Well, I think for me, my brother and I we had a class in college together. It was studying relationships. And Alex and I, my brother, we'd sit next to each other. And I remember one time I went up to the professor and asked the professor a question. My brother Alex came up to me after I asked the question. He goes, Jacqlyn, I've never heard you sound more monotone in my life. Because it just made me like a zombie.
Oh, wow.
I didn't have any energy, no charisma. It was just a monotone Jacqlyn. And I'm like, that was red flag. Number one, I'm like, that's not okay.
No.
I'm a very fun person.
It really is kind of a way to like bring down. I think it's such a cool, actually, a talent to be super energetic, right? And then they're just giving all these kids that have all this energy the medicine and it's bringing them down. Like, why would you dim their light like that?
Well, because that's better for that school system, right?
Exactly.
Like,
it keeps everyone in line.
Yeah, of course. That school system is like, hey, we are going to be lecturing and showing these things on the screen. If your kid can't sit through an hour lecture, you know, do something.
Yeah.
Do something. I think it was like 3rd grade or 4th grade when my teacher had a conversation with my parents just saying like, she seems to like wiggle or like dance a little bit, you know? And I'm like, I like dancing.
She's awesome.
I just like to dance.
Oh,
It's okay. I dance every day.
yeah. And actually my parents would have done the same thing because they believe what doctors say, you know, and they wanted the best for us. And so I like that you don't like blame them for that. They were doing the best that they thought.
Well, my mom also comes from a medical background. She was an intensive care nurse for forever. And then my dad does tend to be more on like not spiritual woo side, but just he's like a, you know, foundations type of man. He's like, okay, believe whatever my wife thinks. Like, let's look into this. So it's good. Yeah, they did the best.
No regrets.
I'm still very grateful.
Another tool that I noticed in the book that that I implemented was to set 3 affirmations. Like yours was, I am consistent. I'm certain.
I am certain. I'm wealth. I am love.
And so I put 3 in my phone for, was it 9 a.m., 12 p.m., and 5 p.m.? But talk about that and how easy that is to do.
Oh, so great. Okay, so years back, I went to one of my friends' seminars, retreats, whatever you want to call it. And she had someone there do a talk just about how to reinstall or like these great values and things that you want to bring into your life. And so she had us go through this whole entire, just kind of like a nice session of just like meditation. And we ended up through that session coming up with these 3 words that we wanted to obtain or continue to obtain. So one for me was, I'm certain. Like I want to be certain in life. I'm wealth. I want to continue to build more and more wealth for myself. And I am love. I want to continue to attract love. I wasn't in the relationship at the time. And I really just was like, let me just all encompass that word. And so that was it like 2018 or 2019, all the way till now, I have these in my calendar. These 3 words: I'm certain, I am wealth, I am love, notification, calendar events at 9, 12, and 5 p.m. It's just little things. Even if I don't even necessarily look at it, it's just, it reminds me and then I can close my phone.
Okay,
and it's
so
there.
You don't have to do anything when you see it. It's just a reminder.
Yeah, because you see it every single day.
You could say it out loud. You could just think it in your head.
Absolutely.
But it's just consistently like manifesting what you want to become.
Right, because the things that we say to ourselves is what we believe. Like that's what's going to come true. I think I just put out a quote about this. It's like by Charlie in the book, the stories you tell yourself are going to be true. They're going to unfold in the way that you tell yourself. So tell yourself what you want to happen and those things will come true.
Well, your brain looks for it, right?
Exactly.
To affirm it. So
exactly.
If you think it, then your brain's like, if you're like, oh, this room's too yellow, and now I'm looking for all the yellow to affirm it.
It's like the classic, red car, yellow car thing on the road.
You're right.
Yeah. Same thing. Our brains are so great at following the lessons or following the instruction. So you really just have to give yourself that instruction, right? Because you're feeding every single thing in this world, right? It's all feeding our subconscious, which feeds your conscious, which feeds your daily life. So why not make it easier for yourself and your subconscious? Put a little notification in your phone.
Right.
Easy.
A little easy hack.
Super, super easy.
Okay, well, I want to close with talking about anxiety because you bring that up in the book. And what I found interesting was that I think something like 20% of people are born with it. And
my cousin,
which doctor was talking about it?
Dr. Callan H.
Okay, she was talking about how they see that their babies, 20% of babies are just more agitated and they have anxiety innately. But then the rest of us, we kind of develop it.
Right.
But talk about how whether you are born with it or whether you develop it, what are some like tools for anxiety? Because I feel like the world is just getting more anxious and everyone's freaking out.
Yeah. So when I interviewed Dr. Callan H., who specializes, she's also a hypnotherapist, but she specializes in taming anxiety. That is like her bread and butter. She's been doing this for so many decades, speaking all around the world. And I was so, so grateful to have her in the book. And so when we talked about this, there's a few things that she was saying, right? Like the world that we live in right now is just so fast and there's so many things going on. So you're going to experience some turbulence. But how about this, right? If you know that there is a wave coming, you can do some things to mitigate some flooding, right? Like put up some different things, some different tools. But when there's a tsunami, you just have to roll with the punches. Same thing with anxiety. When you feel anxiety coming on, use the tools that she kind of mentions, which is just also looking at like, what's the probability of something like this can happen? For example, if we're going to get on a plane and you're a little anxious about the plane ride, well, what's the actual probability? Like use statistics. What's the actual probability that a plane's really going to go down? You're going to be fine. Okay, look at the good probabilities versus like a tsunami when it's already happening. Just use deep breaths. Like use your breaths to help put yourself back into center. And she uses so many different tools that I would love to I would love to go over them. Yes. But there's so many beautiful tools that she kind of talks about. But it's really also just knowing with yourself kind of like everything's going to be okay. And knowing that you're in control. Like everything's going to be great. Unless it's a tsunami, then I'm kidding.
You got to ground yourself.
You got to ground yourself. Yes. Ground yourself. Yes.
This hand over this, and then putting the tongue on the roof of your mouth. while you breathe in, and then dropping the tongue to breathe out for 2 minutes.
Yes.
I tried that.
Oh,
And I don't-
amazing.
I don't like have an anxiety issue, but there are things in my life that stress me out.
Absolutely.
And I use that tool. It totally grounded me. And then there's grounding tools. I liked also how she said that people come to her and they're like, how do I get rid of my anxiety? I don't want it anymore. And she's like, you can't. You have to learn how to live with it.
Yeah.
And that's like so many things in life. Like there's no magic like eraser.
Right.
We just have to use these tools, which you gave so many in this, and I'm so grateful for it.
Thank you.
I also just like don't get a chance to read anymore. We're all so busy.
Yeah.
And your book is so like easily digestible, and you can read it, I feel like, in a few days, or
Yes,
some people can
yeah.
read it in one night if they're
Yeah.
crazy like that.
The idea was to make it as tactful and engaging as possible. So lessons through stories. And, like you said, we are all so busy. So how can you create something that's fun, quick, easy, and really helpful?
So helpful.
Like that's my goal in life. I want to be as helpful as I can and touch as many people as possible. My goal is to empower others to be happy. So we're starting right here with the book.
And what's next for you? What's like the next goal?
So I have long-term goals, short-term goals.
Okay.
I have children's books that I'm coming out with that I'm very excited about, that talk all about understanding gratitude, empathy, communication. And that way, the parents can read it with the kids and just learn at a young age, right? Like how can we, because when you're grateful, it's really almost impossible to not be happy. Like you might start out by saying like, if you're upset, I'm grateful that I'm here. Like I'm grateful, but by like the third grateful, you're like, okay, no, like life is good. We're good. I'm breathing. Like life is great. So that, and then a long-term goal that I have is I want to create programs in schools that I can go in or have, other people go in and really learn about the power of gratitude and the power to regulate thought and just become center, because it's so important.
It is. It could be a class. It is a skill.
Yeah.
It should be taught to kids.
Yeah.
What a great goal. I love
Yeah. Lots of more things coming.
Amazing. And more
things.
books for adults, you think, or kids?
Yes. So also I'm working on a workbook right now that will go hand in hand with Happiness Habitat. So they'll have other different exercises that you can apply in your life. And then, if you don't want to read the book and you just want to do the workbook, then great. So a lot of good things.
I love it.
Yes.
I'm so excited to follow along and just be your friend. And get
Yes.
to know you more.
Me too.
Thanks so much.
So grateful. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much for watching and listening. You can find us on all the platforms, so all the social media platforms, but also Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to subscribe, like, and follow, and we'll see you next time.